Welcome to Leaving CrazyTown with Finn and Sarah. Today, we're going to talk about the parenting hook. We're going to hear from the parents.
I always am kind of anxious doing a parenting video, I think, because I literally know how hard parenting is. Okay. And again, and I always want to give qualifiers.
Like, no judgment here, people.
This is not across all. Obviously, there's individual circumstances. But what we're going to discuss today is...
First, let me give my qualifier.
I forgot to do the timer.
My qualifier is this. If you're a parent and your children are raised and you did the things we're talking about, it's okay.
It's okay.
There's always time to change the dynamic.
You're always...
And they're going to be okay because no kid's getting out without therapy.
No, and even with adult children, I mean, my gosh, you're still learning and growing, and you still can make changes, right? As a parent with adult kids can violate your boundaries just like a 10-year-old or whatever. So just remember that. Okay, I just want to say we know how hard parenting is. And all right, so what we're going to talk about today is getting hooked by your child having some feelings, okay? And that's really such a huge part of co-crazy recovery is, and we discussed this in our first parenting video a little bit, which is letting your kid have their feelings and acknowledging their feelings. But this one is more about, I'm going to give you an example that you guys are going to relate to. Okay. So my son, one night when he was in ninth grade was really tough. And I don't know if you guys have kids in ninth grade, but ninth grade is when he went to the local high school, and it was 3 towns and friends changed and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So he was going through a bunch of stuff and the schoolwork was going a little down.
Taking a decline.
Okay. So I went to bed at like 9:00 and literally, and I know you guys can relate to this too. When he had an issue, I always heard about it at like 5 or 9. Okay. So one night,
like I need cupcakes for the whole kindergarten class.
Exactly. I'm sure you guys, and this is the thing. This is always a debate with parents. Okay. If that happens, you get to make a choice about the cupcakes. Do you actually make them? This is a whole aside. Or do you let them have the consequence the next day? Okay. And just remember, like I always say to you guys, parenting is about the parents. It's always about us. It's always about what I can tolerate and what can't I tolerate. So Bo knocked on my door at 5 and 9 one night and went off about all these science reports, these lab reports that apparently he hadn't done.
Oh boy.
And they were due. And what happens for me immediately? So what happens for me immediately? Holy crap. Have I been on top of this homework thing? Like, how did I not know that he had all that? Well, of course he hadn't told me. So I get into this whole, and he's amped. He's like talking a million miles an hour. And I'm trying to, think about what to, of course, I'm thinking about what to do. Whose problem is it? Then whose problem is it?
It's your son's. And yes. I imagine that
he's a freshman in high school.
The therapist response would be to back off the emergency and say, well, bud, what can you do about this?
Yeah, that would be the therapist's response.
What do you think
And I don't believe I had that response maybe for 3 days.
And I don't think many parents would. First off, you're probably tired.
Yeah. And
you're going to bed.
Yes.
And they're coming at you with all this energy.
Yes.
And, basically it's your fault. If your child hasn't done his homework and you're the parent, where you been,
Okay. Yes. We're going to.
Not true, but.
Yes, it's not true. But my point is when that happens, it activates our own stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm letting him kind of not run around my bedroom, but, pace. Okay. He's pacing.
You let him get it all.
I'm letting him vent, for a good 10 minutes.
How does it feel for you while this is happening?
It's exhausting. It's activating. I'm thinking about, like Finn said, why did I miss this? He hadn't told me. Okay. So after a while, I finally kind of regrouped a little, and I probably thinking back was like, what are you going to do? How can you fix this? Should I? And I
responding with that same frenetic.
Respond with the same energy. And what's fascinating, asking him what I can do. Okay, that's the interesting piece. I'm like, should I call the science teacher? Do you know what I mean? It becomes, this is the great co-crazy example. It becomes now my problem.
Mm.
Again, reminder, whose problem is it, Finn?
Your son's.
Yes, it's my son's issue.
Yeah, but what if he doesn't get into school? What if he fails out? What if he, whatever? How is that your problem?
Yeah, what if he never gets into college?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, and I know you guys relate to this. Again, not my issue. And this is the thing to remember too. If I fix it, what's the message? What's the message, Ben?
That he's not capable of solving his own problems. And then also that anytime there's an emergency, you just got to run to you and you'll fix it.
Yes.
So you're not going to eliminate these crises in the future.
Absolutely brilliant. And it doesn't teach him self-efficacy, self-esteem. You know, he doesn't get confidence. I mean, again, remember these things.
Imagine this. And I'm speaking from my own experience as a person, not a parent.
Yes.
Because, you know, I get activated by 30-year-old stepkids, never mind birth childs. But
yes.
Imagine if you looked at your child and you said to them, what do you think we should do? Right. So you're pairing up with them.
Perfect.
And you're also probably giving them the first moment of calm where they're like, oh, there might be a solution to this 911 that I'm having.
Yes.
And we can work together at it. And then that's like teaching them how to resolve it.
Finn, this is so brilliant because my brother who's a therapist.
Can you say that again? No.
Finn, that was brilliant because my brother who's a therapist, and I would call him, of course, the next day about this stuff. And he would always say to me, because he specialized with kids, he would say, you need to say to them, what do you think would be helpful? You give them the choice now to figure out what's going to be helpful for them, right? Because the fact is, when I'm not in activation, they do know, and we're talking about ninth graders right now, and
emotions.
Yeah.
You know,
they do know because they know the situation. They know how they got into it.
They know their teacher.
Yes, they know the teacher. And if I start getting involved and I start calling the science, which of course I did, but won't get into that, getting involved with the science teacher, et cetera, he's not going to have the experience of figuring this out. So was a brilliant
the next time he has the problem, how does he resolve it? You know, we won't know. Because,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What we want to do is empower the people around us to solve their own problems.
Yes. And also, and this was a real tough one, he had to have consequences. And I even choke up saying this because that semester was not good for him. It was not good for him. He had severe consequences. But you know what ended up happening? He kind of hit a bottom with grades. And his dad and I had a talk with him about how this is going to affect him, not how it's going to affect me, but gee, bud, if you're not getting grades in ninth grade at this is how the trajectory is. So
you gave him a better understanding of why it was important, not from your own fearful place, but in a calm space.
For him, like what are going to be the consequences for him if he doesn't kind of pull it together, which he did. And that's what was so empowering. He had the experience. He had the experience of what it was like to suddenly do much better and see what happened, you know, getting into good schools and all that stuff. So tool of the week. When your kid is having a 911 or an issue and you notice you want to immediately fix it, what do? Pause.
And you could, sorry,
the alarm
is going off. I don't know why she has that thing set.
But, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, so I don't know, like entirely, I would say pause, ask how you can help. What do you need from me? But I think the biggest thing is going to be just stopping and trying to recognize who's 911, whose emergency is it? And then notice what's going on for yourself, like observe what's going on. So I don't know.
Absolutely. That was perfect.
Yeah.
That was perfect. Really encourage the child, whoever it is, whoever's in your life, to what do you think would be helpful with this?
And you might want to validate their feelings like, wow, because you know what? I think our initial reaction when someone doesn't do what they're supposed to do and they bring the emergency to us, why didn't you do your homework?
Right.
That's going to get them like more amped up as opposed to.
This must be really hard.
Yeah.
God, you must be anxious about this if you have a bunch of assignments you haven't done.
I mean, when you mess up, how do you feel when somebody says, why didn't you do it this way? You know, like it doesn't make you feel good.
And again, you guys, this is going to take practice, but it's really, really important. Again, even if your child is younger, and I know this is really hard for parents to hear, we were just talking about kids in kindergarten who have these projects, and then you always know what parent did the project rather than letting your kid
When I taught in the school system, we had a science project, and every kid came in with like clumps of clay and sand attached, and you know, whatever. And then this one child would always come in with the mechanical engineer design that somebody who graduated with a
the father
an
is an
engineering
engineer.
degree, whatever. And that child would sit in class, and it used to break my heart. And he would grind his nails down. He would chew them. He was a nervous wreck. And I really think it's because he was never going, like, he just couldn't do it good enough.
Well, it's the message. That's the message you give your kids when you don't let them have a consequence. People fail. You know, they got to learn that lesson.
Yeah, you don't have to have a stadium with lights and, you know, solar panels in kindergarten.
No, and oh my gosh, I'm getting activated.
And it's embarrassing.
I'm getting activated.
For the child to walk in with this, like, look at my big project, you know, come on.
Absolutely. And parents, this is going to be video number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's huge expectations that parents put on their kids these days because of our own discomfort. That's all we're saying. So just notice your feelings. Let your kids have consequences of their own behavior. I know this is brutal, but just try it.
And if you've done your kids' projects and you don't let them have consequences, don't beat yourself up.
Absolutely.
This is a starting point.
This is a starting point.
Because fasten your seatbelts.
We're leaving Crazy Town.